हेलो हेलो। सुस्वागतम, वेलकम, खुशामदीद। आज उन्मेष अभिव्यक्ति का उत्सव के तीसरे दिन के पहले सत्र में आप सबका स्वागत है। और जो हमारा पहला सत्र है उसका शीर्षक है अनुवाद एक महत समन्वय शक्ति, ट्रांसलेशन अ ग्रेट यूनिफाइंग फोर्स। इस सत्र की अध्यक्षता कर रहे हैं जनाब मोहम्मद जुमा आजरदा साहब। मैं उनसे आग्रह करूंगा कि वो आएं और मंच पर अपना स्थान ग्रहण करें। और जो वक्तागण हैं उनको मैं एक एक करके बुलाता हूं। श्रीमती अंजू रंजन जी, आपसे आग्रह है कि आएं और मंच पर अपना स्थान ग्रहण करें। श्री बलिराम एन गायकवाड़ सर आए, अपना स्थान ग्रहण करें मंच पर। श्री गौरी शंकर रैना जी, कमला तमांग जी, सुधाकरण रामनाथ अली जी और तनुश्री चौधरी जी, आप सबसे आग्रह है कि अपना स्थान ग्रहण करें। इससे पहले कि हम इस सत्र की शुरुआत करें, एक परिचय। जनाब मोहम्मद जुमा आजरदा कश्मीरी और उर्दू के लेखक, कवि और अनुवादक हैं। आप कश्मीर विश्वविद्यालय में उर्दू के प्रोफेसर रह चुके हैं। आपके उर्दू में 5 निबंध संग्रह, कश्मीरी में 3, उर्दू में लेखों के 2 संग्रह, उर्दू कहानियों का 1 संग्रह, कश्मीरी कहानियों का 1 संग्रह, अन्य भाषाओं से कश्मीरी में अनुदित 10 से अधिक पुस्तकें, अंग्रेजी और कश्मीरी से उर्दू में अनुदित 2 पुस्तकें प्रकाशित हैं। आपको साहित्य अकादमी पुरस्कार, साहित्य अकादमी अनुवाद पुरस्कार, आजीवन उपलब्धि के लिए मौलाना अबुल कलाम आजाद पुरस्कार, जम्मू कश्मीर कला संस्कृति और भाषा अकादमी द्वारा अनुवाद आदि पुरस्कार प्राप्त हैं। हम सब आपको पाकर यहां हर्षित हैं। बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आपका। अंजू रंजन जी भारतीय विदेश सेवा अधिकारी हैं। वर्तमान में आप विदेश मंत्रालय भारत सरकार में संयुक्त सचिव राजभाषा एवं भारतीय भाषाएं अंजू रंजन भारतीय विदेश सेवा अधिकारी हैं। वर्तमान में आप विदेश मंत्रालय भारत सरकार में संयुक्त सचिव राजभाषा एवं भारतीय भाषाएं सूचना एवं तकनीक के रूप में कार्यरत हैं। आपने हिंदी भाषा में विभिन्न पुस्तकें लिखी हैं, जिसमें प्रमुख हैं प्रेम के विभिन्न रंग, विस्थापन और यादें, वो कागज की कश्ती, कोरोना के दौरान और रॉबर्ट बर्न्स की कविताओं का हिंदी अनुवाद आदि। आपकी आगामी पुस्तक एक राजनयिक की कोरोना डायरी है। आपको मेरी कोरोना डायरी के लिए नई धारा रचना सम्मान से सम्मानित किया गया है। आपका स्वागत है। श्री बलिराम गायकवाड़ दलित साहित्य, अफ्रीकी अमेरिकी साहित्य, नस्ल, जाति और तुलनात्मक साहित्य पर ध्यान केंद्रित करने वाले प्रोफेसर हैं। आप अंग्रेजी साहित्य से संबंधित 5 खंड लिख चुके हैं और अन्ना भाऊ साठे के क्लासिक मराठी उपन्यास फकीरा का अंग्रेजी में अनुवाद किया है। आप मुंबई विश्वविद्यालय के लाइफ लॉन्ग लर्निंग एंड एक्सटेंशन विभाग के पूर्व निदेशक तथा मुंबई विश्वविद्यालय के पूर्व कुल सचिव हैं। आप फुलब्राइट स्कॉलर हैं। आपका स्वागत है। श्री गौरी शंकर रैना प्रख्यात कथाकार, नाटककार, अनुवादक और फिल्म निर्माता हैं। आपकी लगभग 2 दर्जन पुस्तकें प्रकाशित हैं। आपके कहानियां, नाटक और लेख प्रतिष्ठित साहित्यिक पत्रिकाओं में प्रकाशित होते रहते हैं। आपने सभी महत्वपूर्ण कश्मीरी लेखकों का हिंदी में अनुवाद किया है। आपके नाटकों का प्रसारण कई भाषाओं में राष्ट्रीय नाट्य कार्यक्रम में किया गया है। आपके वृत्तचित्र संयुक्त राष्ट्र और ग्रैंड प्रिक्स फेस्टिवल जैसे प्रतिष्ठित स्थानों पर प्रदर्शित किए गए हैं। आपको अनुवाद के लिए साहित्य अकादमी पुरस्कार, जम्मू एवं कश्मीर अकादमी पुरस्कार, सौहार्द सम्मान, लोक सेवा प्रसारण पुरस्कार और कई अन्य पुरस्कारों से सम्मानित किया गया है। हम आपका स्वागत करते हैं। श्रीमती कमला तमांग को नेपाली, हिंदी, अंग्रेजी और बांग्ला भाषाओं का ज्ञान है। आप कविता, कहानी और गद्य लिखती हैं। आपकी 2 संपादित पुस्तकों के अलावा 4 मौलिक पुस्तकें प्रकाशित हैं। आप कई साहित्यिक और सामाजिक संघों से संबद्ध हैं। आपकी कविताएं और कहानियां प्रमुख नेपाली और हिंदी पत्र पत्रिकाओं में प्रकाशित होती हैं। आप अंतर्राष्ट्रीय तथागत विशिष्ट सृजन सम्मान, अंतर्राष्ट्रीय महिला उत्कृष्टता पुरस्कार, बीबी मुरिंगला स्मृति साहित्यिक पुरस्कार आदि से सम्मानित हैं। हम आपका स्वागत करते हैं। श्री सुधाकरन रामनतली राष्ट्रीय संत कवि कनकदास अनुसंधान एवं अध्ययन केंद्र कनकदास के संपूर्ण कार्यों का अनुवाद के संपादक और समन्वयक के रूप में कार्यरत रहे हैं। आपने साहित्य अकादमी, कुवेंपु भाषा प्राधिकरण और कनकदास अनुसंधान एवं अध्ययन केंद्र के लिए साहित्यिक रचनाओं का अनुवाद किया है। मलयालम में आपकी 7 पुस्तकें प्रकाशित हैं, जिनमें उपन्यास, कहानी संग्रह और स्क्रीन प्ले शामिल हैं। आपने कन्नड़ से मलयालम में क्लासिक्स सहित 35 ग्रंथों का अनुवाद किया है। आपको मंगलम उपन्यास पुरस्कार, नाना स्क्रीन प्ले अवार्ड, नारायण दास मेमोरियल पुरस्कार, अनुवाद के लिए IFRO पुरस्कार, साहित्य अकादमी और अनुवाद के लिए कर्नाटक साहित्य अकादमी पुरस्कार आदि अनेक सम्मान प्राप्त हैं। हम आपका स्वागत करते हैं। हमारे बीच श्री तनुश्री चौधरी हैं, जो NSUT द्वारका नई दिल्ली में अंग्रेजी की प्रोफेसर हैं। इन्होंने मैथिली से अंग्रेजी और हिंदी से अंग्रेजी में कई अनुवाद किए हैं। आपकी प्रमुख कृतियों में 7 शॉर्ट स्टोरीज, हरिमोहन झा की गुड़िया का खेल से अनुदित कहानियां, मैथिली शॉर्ट स्टोरीज इन इंग्लिश तथा विमेन राइटर्स इन मैथिली शामिल हैं। आपके अनुवाद प्रतिष्ठित पत्रिकाओं जैसे अनुवाद तथा साहित्य अकादमी की अंग्रेजी पत्रिका इंडियन लिटरेचर में प्रकाशित हुए हैं। संप्रति आप प्रमुख लेखकों की चुनिंदा मैथिली कहानियों का अनुवाद कर रही हैं तथा पूर्व में आपने बच्चों की कहानियों का मैथिली से अंग्रेजी में अनुवाद भी किया है। हम आपका स्वागत करते हैं। So it's really nice to have this constellation of stars amongst us, and we are going to talk about translations. अनुवाद की बात करेंगे। अनुवाद पढ़ते समय ऐसा लगता है कि जो मूल कृति है उसके इतर भी एक नए ब्रह्मांड की रचना हो रही है, कुछ और नया सीखने को मिलता है अपनी समझ से भी। ज़्यादा बोलने की ज़रूरत मुझे नहीं है क्योंकि अध्यक्षता कर रहे हैं श्री मोहम्मद जमा अजरदा साहब और बाकी के हमारे वक्तागण हैं, तो मैं एक एक करके आपको आमंत्रित करूंगा यहाँ। और सर, अगर इस फॉर्मेट में बातें हो या फिर आप डिस्कशन। जी जी बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, माइक माइक माइक।
सबसे पहले तो मुझे साहित्य अकेडमी का शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहिए, जिनसे किसी ने कहा कि सब्जेक्ट पे बात कराई है। ट्रांसलेशन पे कई तरह से बात होती है, लेकिन इस पहलू को लेके perhaps it was never discussed that this unifies us or this brings us closer। और मेरा सौभाग्य इससे ज़्यादा क्या हो सकता है कि ऐसे लोग, मैं जिस कहकशां के साथ हूँ, ये लोग सारे विद्वान हैं, ट्रांसलेटर्स हैं, and they have worked a lot throughout। और सबसे बड़ी बात जो मैं आपसे कहता हूँ कि ये कोई मामूली बात नहीं है कि मैं आज बरसों बाद वर्षा दास को देख रहा हूँ कि मेरे सामने बैठी हैं, और नंद किशोर आचार्य जी, निज़ाम जी, किरण जी, शाफिया किदवाई, गजनफर साहब और दूसरे मित्र मेरे। यानी कुछ लोगों को मैं शायद नाम से नहीं पहचानता, लेकिन चेहरे मैंने सबके परसों से देखे हैं। ये ट्रांसलेशन जो है, ये अजीब बात है। किसी ने एक बार कहा, मैं पूरा जुमला तो नहीं पढ़ूंगा, that translation can either be beautiful or faithful, not both। But despite that कि ये faithful नहीं हो सकता, we have to do it। Despite that कि beautiful नहीं हो सकता, we have to bear with it, because there's no other way। I will take only India। India is a pocket edition of the great book of world। So many cultures, so many languages, so many dialects here, that every time we need an interpreter with us if we want to talk to some other person। I'll take only one state, J&K, now it's a union territory। I am alien to Jammu people because they talk Dogri, they speak Dogri, and I Kashmiri. Same thing with Kargilis, they speak Purgi, and then Leh, they speak Balti. It is within one state. Now you can think of the whole country. There was a time when I was supposed to think about it, and I could feel that original writer is as free as anything. Like air, can go anywhere. And I, that time, bracketed the original writer with the future filmmaker. If he doesn't get a character, he will substitute it. Doesn't get a location, he'll substitute. Doesn't get a character who could deliver the dialogue in a proper way, he would either change the dialogue or change the character. Anyway, if he falls short of time, he can suppress certain scenes. If he has more time, he can take additional scenes. But this translator, had you not been here, I would have named it in some other way. Anyway, he is such a fool. He's like a documentary filmmaker. He just cannot substitute easily anything. If he has to take a particular pose of a snake, he might have to wait for 10 years. Because in feature filmmaking, everything is at the command of the director. But here, the director is the last man, he has to obey only. So if snake doesn't behave as the producer or director wants, he may have to wait for 10 years or drop the idea itself. But this, despite being so difficult, it is the force that glues us, that brings us together, that brings us closer. And I think it's like cold, because cold creates warmth, brings us closer, not heat that creates repulsion. So we should always love this translation. I am happy that these people are here. They will be able to talk on the subject more than I would, and they should be given every chance. The time, you know, it is 1.5 hours, yes?
Yes, sir.
Tell me your name.
Vimalendu.
Huh?
Vimalendu.
He is Vimalendu, and other names you have already heard. They will get, I think, not more than 10 minutes each. Or if we save some time, then we can ask someone to repeat. I will request our Vimalendu ji to request them one by one so that they educate us on the subject in a proper way. And if there are any questions, I think we should take them last, because in between it will disturb them. It will disturb the thought process. So I'll request my Vimalendu that you come and then call them as it is prescribed there in the list. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir, for making my work a bit easier. Instructions are with all the speakers, and time limit is already prescribed by the chairperson. So first of all, I'd like to invite Srimati Anju Ranjan ji. You please come.
Thank you, Bimlendu ji. Honorable Chair and my fellow translator writer, as I was introduced, I am a Foreign Service officer. So my journey to translation started when I was posted in Scotland. I was the Consul General, and I got introduced to Robert Burns in a Burns Supper, which they celebrate on 25th January every year, commemorating the birth anniversary of the famous Scottish poet, who is the national poet of Scotland also, Robert Burns. So I was invited by the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, to the Burns Supper of Parliament, and I was the latest or newest Consul General. So I got a seat next to her, and then she asked, "Have you read Robert Burns?" So I said, "Sorry ma'am, I just read this thing, Sejer Purane Dinner Katha." So I knew that it is inspired from Robert Burns. Rest, I want to learn more about him. And she was joking throughout the time because Scottish people are very warm and then they keep joking with you. So she asked me, you have to eat haggis. Haggis is a local dish which is prepared from the remaining parts of an sheep or goat, which is like stomach and many other things. I don't know the name properly. So the residual, and they mix it with some lentil and then prepare a dish called haggis. So mere thought of it was like very, I must say, not that attracting. I was quite repelled by it. So I saved myself not eating haggis that day. And I asked her, can I be served vegetarian haggis? She said, yes, why not? But if you want to know more about Robert Burns, Anju, you have to love haggis. So when I came back and I sang this poem first time with her, holding the hand, and everybody will form a circle and then they'll walk around the parliament singing this song. So as we say that we are in the world of translator, so I would like to sing 2 lines of that song which I got translated. So I start my journey with that. 1 second. Sorry, I kept it nicely, but yeah. So this is a poem, Old Lang Syne. This is the most famous poem of Robert Burns. And this is like in the Select Folk Song Index. It has been of the world. It has been placed for last 300 years. And it is coming among top 10 songs to be sung even now on a New Year occasion, on the eve of New Year, Robert Burns thing, or on the farewell or welcoming someone. So in Bangla, Rabindranath Tagore has translated his Puraner Se Dinar Katha. So his original this thing is like this. Should old acquaintance be forgotten, never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgotten, never brought to mind? Poor old Lang Syne, my dear, poor old Lang Syne, will take a cup of kindness yet for old Lang Syne. I wanted to translate this, but as Honorable Chair said, when you are translating, you should not lose the ethos in the process. This song is about old-time friendship, how you should not forget the old-time friendship, and how we can still kindle our old thoughts. So I have translated it in Hindi like this. प्रिय बीते दिनों की बातें कैसे भूलूं हाय, वो तो देखी दिखाई मन की बातें कभी ना भूली जाए. Should old acquaintance be forgotten, never brought to mind? So for me, this was the toughest song, toughest poem to be translated, because each word had to be set on the same note and not to lose the meaning of the song, the ethos of the song. So this is like 10 minutes is too less to describe this beautiful journey, meeting Robert Burns, going to the Burn cottage, spending a day over there, collecting and reading his more than 300 poems and selecting 20 poems out of it from different shades, different colors, and different category of the life. So I have selected love poem, which is like a fond kiss. I have selected a social responsibility poems like To a Mouse. I have selected poem like you can say comedy and slapstick comedy like Tam O'Shanter. Also exposing the church, which has become very powerful at that time, which is like a Holy Willie's prayer. And many other songs which reflects that day's culture in Scotland, I have selected, like you might, everybody here aware of the Scotch whiskey, but very few people know that Robert Burns was an excise inspector of Scotland. And he was the one, he was obviously, if you are an excise inspector at that time controlling the trade of the liquor, you should be a good drinker and appreciator of that liquor also, right? So I have translated his poem, The Scotch Whiskey, and also there is like some poem which is very patriotic in nature. Like you might have heard this poem, God Save the King. This is a big slogan, God Save the King. It is written by Robert Burns. God save the king. May the God save the king. It is a slogan when they sworn in the ceremony. And it is the whole line is, God save the king, but don't forget the common man. So I really got touched by this thing, that how he's like, kind of, he says that, okay, let the king be like, saved, alive and prosperous, but God should also not forget the common man. So I have also a man's amen for that. I have translated that also. So there are like 20 poems. I think if I have 2-3 minutes, then I can. I would like to read the Prime Minister of Scotland, who has like written for this, because this is the first time ever Robert Burns got translated in Hindi, and I'm grateful to Sahitya Academy who published my book. I was not knowing anybody in Sahitya Academy. I just knew that this book, if it is published by Sahitya Academy, it will be very good, like connecting the two countries, India and Scotland, in the field of poetry. So Sahitya Academy, without knowing me, after seeing the text only, manuscript only, they were like very agreeable to publish it. And Nicola Sturgeon wrote a foreword for my book, who was then the Prime Minister of Scotland and my friend also. So I will read it in Hindi. स्कॉटलैंड की विख्यात साहित्यिक संस्कृति हमारी विशिष्ट राष्ट्रीय पहचान का हिस्सा है। हम भारत के साथ काव्य परंपरा के साथ साथ बहुत से सांस्कृतिक संबंध भी साझा करते हैं। ये नो, इट इज ए फॉरवर्ड रिटन बाय प्राइम मिनिस्टर। रॉबर्ट बर्न्स के कार्य को पूरी दुनिया में सराहा जाता है और हर वर्ष स्कॉटलैंड का शीत उत्सवों में यहाँ दुनिया भर के लोग जो स्कॉटलैंड और बर्न्स को प्यार करते हैं इस उत्सव को मनाते हैं। रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर को, सी मेंशन रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर, अनेक लोग भारत के महानतम कवि मानते हैं। टैगोर भी रॉबर्ट बर्न्स के प्रशंसक थे। उन्होंने बर्न्स की कविता ओल्ड लैंग सैंड से प्रेरित होकर पुरानों से ही दिनेर कथा लिखी। पहले ही भारत के लोग रॉबर्ट बर्न्स की कविता को टैगोर के माध्यम से जानते हैं। मुझे खुशी है कि अब अंजू रंजन द्वारा अनुवादित कविताओं के माध्यम से अधिक लोग रॉबर्ट बर्न्स से परिचित हो सकेंगे। जब अंजू स्कॉटलैंड में कॉन्सुल जनरल थीं, तब मुझे उनसे मिलने का सौभाग्य हुआ था। वे रॉबर्ट बर्न्स की कविताओं के अनुवाद के लिए सर्वथा उपयुक्त हैं। मुझे आशा है कि उनकी यह किताब करोड़ों भारतीयों को रॉबर्ट बर्न्स से परिचित कराएगी। अंजू, मैं आपको स्कॉटलैंड और रॉबर्ट बर्न्स को अपने दिल में रखने के लिए आपका बहुत धन्यवाद करती हूँ। सी रोट दिस for my book. I am so grateful to her. This book is to be placed in the Burns Museum in January this year on his birthday. So I'm very happy I was invited by Sahitya Academy here, and again amongst this eminent speaker, and grateful that Sahitya Academy also published this book. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, ma'am, for taking into consideration the time limit, and thanks for reminding Robert Burns once. As a student of English literature, I am always thankful that someone comes and reads about. One quote of René Magritte, one great surrealist artist of 20th century, he said once that if the dream is the translation of reality or waking life is also translation of dreams. So they are very much interconnected, and on this outset, I would like to invite Shri Baliram N. Gaikwad, sir. Sir, please come and...
A very good morning to all of you. Sahitya Academy, under the aegis of Ministry of Culture, Government of India, has organized this UNMESH, the International Literature Festival, and I feel very honored and privileged to be here as one of the speakers. Honorable Mohammad Zaman Azurda sir, forgive me if I make any mistakes in pronouncing the name, as well as the today's chairperson of today's session, Anju Ranjanji, Gauri Shankar Raina ji, Kamla Tamarni ji, Sudhakaran Ramna ji, Tanushri Chaudhary ji. It's my honor to be one of the speakers with all of you, honorable other esteemed members and scholars in the auditorium. Etymologically, the word translation is actually a combination of two Latin words, which begins with ferry, and ferry is to carry, and it also has a prefix called trans or across. So carrying something across is translation. Roughly, that is etymological explanation for the word translation. Since we are talking about the translation in this particular session, who actually is the translator? कौन है translator? क्या translator की कोई particular degree है जिसको हम translator कहते हैं? तो आमतौर पे अगर हम देखते हैं तो translator is everyone present in this world is a translator. पूरी दुनिया में जो कोई person है, every person is a translator. And what do we translate is one different phenomenon at different occasions. But as a role of a translator, particularly with the literary translations, the role is different. To me, importantly, I being student of English literature, I would like to quote here Jacques Derrida ने translator की बहुत ही अच्छी व्याख्या की है, जिसमें वो कहते हैं कि there is no meaning outside the text. When it comes to literary translation, वे कहते हैं कि मीनिंग इज लाइंग इन दी नॉट आउटसाइड बट इनसाइड द टेक्स्ट. ये बहुत ही लिटरल ट्रांसलेटर की डेफिनेशन है. बट एट द सेम टाइम व्हेन वी स्माइल, व्हेन वी कीप साइलेंस also has a meaning, and we translate from that. All of us translate. Parents translate their hardships and experiences which are complex to their kids in a very similar simplified manner so that the children understand from this. तो पेरेंट्स का रोल भी एक ट्रांसलेटर का रोल होता है. टीचर इज अ ट्रांसलेटर. साइलेंस इटसेल्फ इज अ ट्रांसलेटर विच स्पीक्स लाउडर देन वर्ड्स एंड टॉक्स अबाउट द ग्रीफ्स. देयर इज समथिंग अ टेंशन इन द माइंड ऑफ द पर्सन. तो हम लोग वो सारी भावनाओं को जब समझते हैं तो हम भी ट्रांसलेटर का रोल प्ले करते हैं. बट एट द सेम टाइम Susan Besnet, another important critique, talks about, she says, translation is negotiation, and our social interactions on a daily basis are also involved a lot of role of translator and translations. तो हम अक्सर ट्रांसलेट करते हैं, ह्यूमन एक्शंस को ट्रांसलेट करते हैं. रीडिंग अ फेस इज नथिंग बट अ ट्रांसलेशन. बट लिटरल ट्रांसलेशन में वर्ड टू वर्ड ट्रांसलेशन जब हम करते हैं तो a kind of a role is very different. The process of translation is as old as human civilization and human existence. Or human civilization becomes the moment different groups with different tongues began to interact, then it becomes a necessary process of translation. India has the richest and oldest tradition of translation in the world because of its linguistic and cultural diversity. Some of the finest examples of Indian translation tradition we can take, which begins of course with Vedas which were into the Prakrits and regional tongue, translated into 1500 to 500 BC, an important example for all of us to be very proud. Buddhist text, for example, the Emperor Ashoka's संस्कृत टेक्स्ट ओरिजिनली 3rd century BC में लिखी गई, इंस्क्राइब्ड इन प्राकृत एंड ट्रांसलेटेड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली इनटू ग्रीक. तो वहाँ से ये ट्रांसलेशन की प्रोसेस, वो हिस्ट्री हम देख सकते हैं. पाली कैनन में भी हम देखते हैं कि ट्रांसलेशन की प्रोसेस हुई है. नॉट ओनली ट्रांसलेटेड हियर बट हैड दैट काइंड ऑफ अ यूनिफाइंग फोर्स, दैट काइंड ऑफ यूनिफाइंग पावर टू कनेक्ट ग्लोबली. तो ये जो इंडियन एग्जाम्पल्स है और इंटरनेशनल एग्जाम्पल्स में हम देखते हैं कि हाउ the translation as a genre, translation as a subject, as a theme, has really unifying power. Jain text scriptures also were translated into several regional languages and further also translated into Latin. Epics like रामायण महाभारत तो हमारी रोज़ की ज़िंदगी का हिस्सा है, जिनके कई सारे संस्कृत से लेकर बाद में रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस में ट्रांसलेशंस किया गया था. Earlier retelling shows of long tradition of cultural traditions in India. These are few representative examples of how translation has been age-old system in India, and this is one of the process of translation that we carry. Also along with that, but translating knowledge across classes, regions, and religions is a continuous process. When we say translation as a great unifying force, how translation has really connected or given Indian impression internationally, that is also the point that I would like to cover. To also talk about my personal translation work, because of which I have been invited here. This is a book, Fakira, which I translated from Marathi to English. In Marathi also there are several dialects, and this also has kind of one that dialectical influence very strongly from western Maharashtra. And the challenges of translating this particular Marathi classic novel into English was again the dialectical, lexical connotations and cultural connotations many words carry. That was again the similar kind of tension, a similar kind of burden at the time of translation. But usually the translator has to be something like this. I believe that translator and the text, the relationship is like a mother and child. The infant who cannot speak, the infant who cannot utter a single word or cannot speak properly into a formal language, yet mother very skillfully, it is that language in which mother understands what the child wants to say, what the infant needs. So the needs of infant without telling mother understands. Translator has to be like this. What the author wants to say through the text, originally written in a source language, the translator has to be in the role of a mother to understand what is intended meaning by the original author. And it is in this sense, sure. So it is in this sense that translation plays an important role, and translator has a double, triple responsibility to carry that particular breach. Just to conclude, I would like to say that Indian translation practices have shown that diversity can be a source of unity. By allowing ideas, stories, and philosophies to travel across languages, India created a cultural fabric that is locally rooted but globally connected. Last thing, how the translation can connect globally. This particular novel is welcomed in Russia, welcomed in US, and in many central universities of India. Also, this has been part of syllabus, as it has that kind of a cultural kind of a power, talking about India, Maharashtra's culture. Thank you very much everyone for your patient hearing and giving me an opportunity to explain. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and congratulations for this acceptance of your newly published book. And thank you for quoting Jacques Derrida from Off Grammatology, that there is nothing except the text. In French, it goes like Il n'y a rien hors du texte. So thank you for reminding me that. And in this very series, I'd like to invite now Shri Gauri Shankar Raina, sir. Sir, please come.
Good morning, Chair Azurda Sahab, Nanda Acharya ji, Shim Kapni Sahab, my friends sitting over there, Varshad Das ji, Bhanu Bharti ji, the friends on the panel, सबको मेरा आदाब, नमस्कार. Translation and translating a text is a very difficult job. It's a difficult game altogether. And I have been in this translation business for the last so many years now, some decades, I think. So to speak on the unifying, the great unifying force, I need at least 30 to 40 pages at least to explain the whole thing. But I have tried to put my ideas in some 2-3 pages. So, because I don't want to talk about my translations and the process of translation, that has already been talked about. So I'll read from the papers that how I am. Yes. Yeah. See, all of us know that great works of the world have reached us through translation. Many important works have been translated by different translators, but according to the historical, social, and cultural context, cultural context changes occur, and new styles of translations emerge. The translators take into account broader contextual dimensions, and translation starts to shape a new literary canon. We have already a great literary canon with us. The impact of the translation is so enormous that it has started putting emphasis on the analysis between the source and the target text. This analysis has advocated that both be considered as equal products. When I translated the poems of Rahman Rahi from Kashmiri into Hindi, as he was selected for the Jnandev award, the percentage of the royalty was same for both of us. The translation was regarded as equivalent to the original. Rahi Sahab has written great poems, but my job was to set free his verses from the confines of a particular language area and unify them with a bigger language region. So this unification was not just the transfer of one text into another, but it was mediation between cultures. That is what I wanted to put my emphasis on, because it unifies the cultures basically. When cultures come together through meaningful translations, the new independent text creates an understanding of other societies, their traditions, and their way of life. So we must look on translation in a much broader frame, not only as a great unifying force, but also as an act of intercultural communication. The changing temperament of the new world compels us to depend on new communication methods. In this changing scenario, Shakespeare is being presented in simpler translations. There is a great theatre person sitting here behind there. He knows how Shakespeare has been translated, and new adaptations are being done all over the globe, as he has made great plays out of the muddled philosophy of life. Many plays of Shakespeare, including Othello, have been translated into Kashmiri. I have also translated his comedy, Taming of the Shrew, in Kashmiri. Yeah, I have done that. The plot mainly portrays courtship of Catherine and Portico, but there are many subplots like most of the Indian tales. Keeping the Kashmiri reader in mind, I translated it as Rindamaswal, and adapted the situations depicted in the play to Kashmiri milieu. The play ends at a happy note with both the man and woman showing respect for each other. Purpose of the translation was to prepare a script for performance. However, I did not distort the structure of the play during translation. Neither degraded the source language text. I rewrote the theatre text in a different language, which can be defined as art. And I say it's art of translation, and not as a craft, as some critics have described it. Let me quote Tolstoy here. He, in his book, What is Art, writes that for an average man, the reply to this question would be, art is the activity which manifests beauty. The question of what beauty is remains completely open, and each new work on aesthetics resolves in a new way. The purpose of art consists in transferring from the realm of reason to the realm of feeling. That feeling, when communicated through translation to a wider readership in different regions, makes them experience the same feeling and unites the most diverse people. I'll now talk about some writers of Valley. The playwrights of the Valley like Ali Muhammad Lone, Avatar Krishan Rehbar, and their contemporaries wrote in Kashmiri. But the plays of Badal Sarkar, Vijay Tendulkar, Girish Karnad, Mudra Rakshas, and Mohan Rakesh, written originally in Bangla, Marathi, Kannada, and Hindi, could reach the people of Kashmir through translations only, both on stage and radio. In fact, radio has played an important role in merging the different language regions. When a drama of any region is selected for national program of drama, its master script is prepared in English or Hindi. The master script is then sent to different radio stations. The local stations get these scripts translated into 22 languages, listed into 8th schedule of Constitution, and the drama is broadcast at the same time in different languages on a particular day. This is National Program of Drama. This is the yoke of technology and translation. So it's not only technology, but the translation is there. All the plays get translated in all the 22 languages and are broadcast at the same time. Ali Muhammad Lone's Kashmiri drama Suya and Hari Krishan Kohl's Yeli Watan Khurshu Iwan means When the Paths Get Entangled, and other works, including mine, reached to the different parts of the country just by the process of multiple translations of a single work. Because it is actually single work, single play, which is then translated in all the languages. Writing is in fashion. Every other person is a poet. But there are very few translators. And there are, okay, I'll conclude. And there are still fewer translators I want to mention about him, like E.K. Divakaran Putti, who was a prominent translator and translated all the novels of Premchand into Malayalam. He translated Seva Sadan as Seva Sadanam, Godhan as Godhanam, and made Premchand popular in the far southwest of Indian subcontinent. Premchand had not only assimilated the new ethos in literature, but also proved one of the unconventional in Indian writing. His arrival in a distinct place through the translations of Divakaran was integration. We talk of integrations of different regions. This is integration. Recently, the centenary of Divakaran was celebrated in Kerala. It is very rare that a centenary of a translator is celebrated. किसी translator की आज तक centenary नहीं मनाई गई है. He is the only person. An award has also been constituted, which is presented for outstanding translation in Malayalam, and the name of the award is E.K. Divakaran Award. So इतना सम्मान किसी translation को मिलना मुझे गर्वित करता है. Premchand, I am concluding now. I have skipped, so I am just Premchand has been translated into Kashmiri also, but all his works are not available in Kashmiri. He is important because his concern is with the basic human issues. Maybe that is the reason that his novels like Prem Ashram and Nirmala are still in demand even after their many, many editions. He had opened a new ground into the realism of inner world of a man. I feel happy to share that my first translation was the translation of Premchand's short story in Kashmiri, which was published in Lala Rukh in 1973 when I was in college. Possibly I may translate some of his untranslated works in Kashmiri, as I am much influenced by his realistic portraiture. So to reach a wider readership, the great translators have used a popular style of language, and they have been avoiding affected phrases. Using contemporary terminology for certain expressions helps them communicate better in the target language. They shape the aesthetic production in a different way, building a new bridge of communication. Let us hope the passion continues and the force of transformation through translation gets stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And it was really nice to know that you translated The Taming of the Shrew by William Shakespeare. Yeah, that's great. Oh, wow.
But the actor
Oh my God. Okay, okay, okay. So it was very relevant of yours to say this here because we are having a very good and a great dramatist amongst us. Shri Abhiram Bharkam sir is sitting over here. And I must tell you this play by Samuel Beckett, Waiting for Godot, that has been translated in 54 languages. So that is really, that means that translations mean something. Yeah, yeah, obviously. So in this series, I'll like to just invite Shri Sudhakaran Ramanathali Sahab. Please come. Sure, sir. Sure. Take your time. Your limit is 10 minutes as sir has prescribed, so you can.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Chairperson of this session, Janab Jaminji, other participants, and writers and my dear friends sitting in the dialogue. This topic, of course, we were discussing about it before coming onto the stage. It is very vague and we can talk. As my friend said, for hours we can talk on this, because then also it will not be, we will not be satisfied by that, because so many things we have to touch in course of explaining this topic. So I thought I will just connect this thing to my own personal experience and then make a statement here, so that important things, whichever important things I wanted to tell you, will be covered. I realized from my own experience that literary translation is a great unifying force. I was born in a remote village in North Kerala and educated my primary education was there in a Malayalam medium school in that village. Later on I moved to Bengaluru and my education further was in Bengaluru and Mysuru. So, right from childhood, it was my passion to learn more languages. So, in my opinion, Bengaluru is the best place to learn languages. You can learn so many languages if you live in Bengaluru for 1 or 2 years, if you are very keen in observing and learning languages. So, I will just read. I pursued my studies further in Bangalore and Mysuru. Learning languages was my passion right from my childhood. Soon I learned Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, and to an extent Marathi. Malayalam, English and Hindi were already there, because from my village itself, my primary education, it's covering 3 languages. So now it has become 6, 7 languages. So as a literary aspirant, I started my journey writing short stories and novels in Malayalam. My works were published in leading Malayalam periodicals. Once the editor of a weekly, a periodical, a very reputed periodical, Mathrubhumi, assigned me a different task. It was nothing but an interview with Dr. Chandrasekhara Kambar. When he received the Jnandev award, this editor called me and he tells me, you go to Mr. Kambar, he is in Bangalore, and interview him exclusively for our publication. So I went there to meet him, and we had a 3.5 hour sitting at his home in Bangalore, in which we discussed about Kannada literature, Malayalam literature, Indian literature and world literature generally. All in Kannada. I spoke pure Kannada with him, not even English words. I was very keen to, I was very careful not to use English words, so that the Kannada writer, whom I consider to be one of the best writers ever we had in India. So I spoke in Kannada to him. At the end of the session, he gave me he presented me some 5 books. All those books were considered to be the um, best masterpiece. Shikara Surya, that was his masterpiece, that he came. And then other 4 works which were considered to be the classics in the modern Indian literature. And he told me, you speak Kannada so nicely. Please read these books. Can you write and read Kannada? So I told him, yes, I will. Then he said, you read these books and let me know your opinion about it. If you feel it's good, you can translate it into Malayalam. So until then, I have never translated anything actually. I have written novels, 3-4 novels, and more than 60 short stories, some 20 poems, and certain articles in periodicals and all. But I never did the translation. I took his Jokumara Swami, that was a play, folk play, a great play with a folk element. And Jokumara Swami I translated first. It was received like anything in Kerala. In Malayalam it was received in a good manner. And then I got a confidence that I can go forward. So till now I have translated 34 works from Kannada into Malayalam. This includes 17th century poet Kanakadasa, scholar poet Kanakadasa, his complete works. And then 15th century poet Mahakavi Kumaravyasa, his Mahabharata. He has got a separate Mahabharata. That poem, it is an epic with 42,000 lines that I did for the Culture Department, Cultural Ministry of Karnataka. It's going to be printed shortly. And all this works I could do because I learned the language with a commitment. Because I thought I will read the statement so that it covers everything. But in the middle, if I will. Kambar knew that I am a Malayali, and at the end of the conversation, I told you, he gave me the. This is how I became a translator and gradually served as a bridge between the 2 languages, 2 cultures. I have already published, I told you, I have never spent much time on theories of translations. To discuss about translation is to discuss it as an art, science and skill. Hundreds of years ago, our great poets from various languages, regional languages, have translated our epics, Ramayana, Mahabharata. I have to conclude. Okay. So I told you about theories. I didn't learn much about theories of translation. If one is not aware of the historical evolution of the concept of its philosophical tradition and culture, one fails to do justice to his task as a translator. 1 second. Sure. Literary translation is a kind of cultural communication that transmits meaning across space and time, bridging cultures and civilizations. It is a parallel activity, evolving a leap from the spirit to the letter, and again from the source language to the target language. Every language spoken in the world represents a special culture, melody, color, and asset. As to all of us, the mother tongue is most precious treasure in our life. It is our duty and responsibility to preserve it and pass it down from generation to generation. Learning a new language opens a new window in our worldview and make us more aware, open-minded, and more respectful to other cultures, lifestyles, customs, and beliefs. Translation is, of course, a great unifying force. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. And now, as the last speaker of this session, I'd like to invite Srimati Tanushri Chaudhary, and I'm really glad that she translates stories from Maithili to English. And you might have translated some stories of Padma Shri Usha Kiran Khan as well. Even I have done few of them. So please, ma'am, I'm looking forward to listen to you. Please.
गुड मॉर्निंग, नमस्ते, आप सबको प्रणाम. I am thankful to Sahitya Academy for having invited me. I am also thankful to people who have prompted me, who must have suggested my name to Sahitya Academy, to the chairperson here, my panelists, and people who share this particular hobby of translating. It is a homecoming for me because I'm a daughter of Bihar. I have studied English literature and I am now settled in Delhi teaching English to engineering students. Not a very interesting job, of course, but one thing that favored me in this particular passion, in this journey, was what could I do on my own? When you are surrounded by engineers, teachers who are teaching engineering, I thought that it's kind of boring here. So why not do my own work? And as students of literature, we know that research is not very, very open and to that extent that we have in engineering. So I started off doing some work of my own and I began to write, to translate on my own, seated in my own room. I had a very nice time because I started with translating Premchand. And that brought memories back to me. What are we talking about? Is it the common man? Whom are we talking about? Is it the marginalized society? Are those poor people who don't have any help, who are wanting to get help out? Now these days we talk a lot about marginalized societies, but what do we do for them? I think their pain and their suffering and their angst can be brought out if we keep on repeatedly translating him into several languages so that people know that it is the feeling of a man that unites all the languages. So there is a lot of diversity, but there is a unity too. And this is what I found in Premchand. After that, I started translating. I thought to myself, what is it that I can do for my own language? I could speak Maithili, I still speak Maithili, and sir said it is alien. It's not alien at all. When you look at the works of people and the translations, you will find that you are very much there. In fact, all of us are there in the translations, in the books, and what people talk about, the authors talk about. So I'm relatively new, started with my first translation in 2014, went on to translating Hari Mohan Jha's 7 short stories, which is more or less a satire. And in that, I could see Swift's role. Man is, beholding a glass wherein he can see everyone but himself. All of us partake of things that happen around us, in which we laugh at others, but the ultimate, aim is to correct. So we laugh at people. A very well-known, a titan in the field of Maithili literature, he was the one who brought out the idiosyncrasies of the Maithil people. I could see myself there. Khattar Kaka too. So when you look at him, when you laugh with him, but we also laugh at ourselves. So that is what humor and satire does to you. So it was lovely working with him, and that is the point when I think I made a mark somewhere that people did notice me. So I'm very new. I am, a newcomer in this field, and any lapses from my side can be, talk to me later. So perhaps I do make mistakes, but I'm here to make an impact because Maithili is a language which has been not so privileged till the time that in 2003 it became one of the scheduled languages included in the list of the Indian Constitution. Till that time, people were not very, very encouraging towards Maithili, and therefore the translations have not become, very popular as such. And there were several people who approached me. They were very happy with my work, and I have promised that I'll do more of translations in the coming few years. So the first translation was Hari Mohan Jha, and then I began translating other authors too, and I came across Shri Gunanath Jha's A Doll's Game. Now this clicked a picture in mind because when you talk about Henry Ibsen's The Doll's House, I was reminded of it. What did the people do there? Were they not too full of themselves? So this is what is happening here, because writers, what do writers write about? They write about life. They write about people. They write about customs. They write about people's feelings, sentiments, idiosyncrasies. So these are the things that I have tried to translate from Maithili to English. And let me tell you, it was not easy, even though I am a Maithili speaker. Academically speaking, people who have been writing in Maithili are too tough to translate. So there is a translator's dilemma, which always keeps my hands tied, but I don't hesitate to call up people at night also, ask them what does this mean. You have gone through it, but you don't know those things. Also the fact that when you look at these things, many of these things are disappearing now. You do not use those words, phrases, idioms, proverbs. You might have heard a few, but then when you are separated from your homeland, you do not come across many people who talk about these things. So you kind of, for you it becomes obsolete. Nevertheless, it has now regained life because I'm looking at it all over again and trying to come to terms with the rich culture of Maithili literature. So when I talk about, unity in translation, I think what we are basically talking about is the resilience and the universal human spirit which always makes a comeback. So like Shakespeare, who talked about Othello, who talked about Hamlet, to be or not to be, we are also talking about people like you and me who are tied up, knotted in their own fields, trying to find a way out. So there is a rural life and there's a city life. Where does one go? There's a choice between living with children and there's a choice of staying all by yourself even if you're old at home. Village life is much celebrated among writers, and there is a very difficult choice to make. I guess most of us will be facing it very soon, where to live. Now these are the pangs, these are the issues that are raised in Maithili literature, and that is what binds languages together. Because this is what we are generally basically talking about. We are talking about realistic life, life that has been there and which is making an impact on us, and it has a relevance till the time that human spirit is alive. Now, for example, when I talk about Maithili and the loss of cultures that is happening, one very prominent thing that came to my notice was this tradition of having the Sorat Sabha, which is a place near Madhubani where husbands are matched. Initially, it was a matching of the groom and the bride in a very minimalist tradition, very simplistic, where people exchanged vows and marriage was fixed without any pomp and show, and people got married. Later on, it became commercialized, and now it has become a more of a market where husbands are sold. So in one of my plays, The Doll's Game, which is known as Kanya Putra, like the games that we also used to play when we were kids, girls, not boys, of course. So you can look at the gender disparity also when you talk, which is across languages, across our cultures. So the girl used to play it, but when she gets married, she has just the opposite life. So the life that she painted, portrayed with her dolls, comes to an end when she gets married and the husband tramples over her. So this was an eye-opener for me. Not many people have talked about it. Nevertheless, the author does say, the dramatist says, that if all of us, from different languages talk about it in different ways, we know that this is a social evil which has to come to an end. So, being a linguist, I'll just take one more minute. Linguist, I also talk about words that are dying in Hindi or in Maithili. You seem to know so much of it, but because you have not heard it for so long, it gives you that feeling, that you know it. It is, that feeling, what's that feeling called? Deja vu. That you realize that yes, you have gone through it. It was very much there. So of the few things that I just noted down that are far disappearing is the words like, for example, I have not heard many people speak about a sojourn where the relationship is confirmed between the groom and the bride side and don't have rice over there. Then there is a panj. There is a marriage register which is maintained by Maithili families, and you get married according to the 3 generations this side and 5 generations, might be fast disappearing because of the changes in society. The last work that I have translated is about stories written by women authors, women writers in Maithili, and all of them brought home the point that you feel as a female. How do you go across this, across this particular problem? How do you solve it? So you have people at home, you can't talk much, but how do you resolve this? So all of this has been taken out through the stories of women, and I loved translating because I could also see myself there. Thank you so much for having given this opportunity.
Now I would like to invite Zama Azurda Sahab to come and conclude the session.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's an intervention, otherwise the session is continuing. And now some more friends like M. Kerena and Professor Qadri and Banu Bharti ji, and Dolly Tikku and some others have joined us. It will be more a heat creating this session. See, they talked about so many things, but these were first person experiences, what they have experienced. I will just like to talk a little about that Scotland, that translation and all that. It's not only in one language. This problem is in every language, and it is good. It is because of her, because of a translation process, that we are nearer to them and we can understand them or they can understand us. My friend Gaikwad just talked about this, and I should say how mother and kid, how they interpret each other. It's actually, basically, we start with sign language, and I tell you, once I was talking on sign language in Jamia Millia Islamia, I just was telling them, look here, if I show like this, Akhtar Wasa will be before me with a cigarette and an ashtray. And I tell you honestly, I had not finished it, that he was actually with that cigarette, and that then I was a smoker, that ashtray before me. I tell you one experience that if you do apologies to men sitting here, girls are always sharper. A girl left her home, say on this side. She had to go to her college on this side. Her boyfriend left his home on this side. He had to go to college on this side. The road was so crowded that if they would wait to cross the road, they would miss the class. And it was so noisy. If they would go on the highest pitch of their voices, they would not understand each other. The boy, the poor fellow, he was feeling sorry that I am looking at her and not talk. But the girl, she was sharp enough, she said like this. They had conversed. See me at 5 o'clock round the corner. Signs are sometimes more faster than words, faster than language. But here we have to deal with literature. Now, what was Gaikwad saying? It's okay that sometimes we have to interpret the signs only. But at the same time, the expressions itself are signs. And I'll just talk about it, that this intracultural problem, what all of us, that there are certain expressions that we can't translate from one language to another and get the same meaning, get the same feel as it is in original. You know, I tell you one thing, what I feel, रोशनी जो है वो कैसे ईजाद होती है? Because of darkness. जब अंधेरा होता है, रोशनी चाहिए. तो रोशनी क्या करती है? उसी अंधेरे को मिटाने की कोशिश करती है. तो ये सिलसिला चलता रहता है. इसी तरह से कल्चर जो है वो अपने आप को एक्सप्रेस करने के लिए लैंग्वेज कॉइन करता है. और एवरी लैंग्वेज has a culture behind it. And when we talk of literature, हम सिर्फ language, meaning ही translate नहीं करते हैं. We have to make people feel how it looks. For example, I tell you, in Urdu, for second person pronoun, we have tu, tum, aap, huzur, huzure wala, janab, janab Ali, janab Aliya, खुदावंद and what not. और जब आप ट्रांसलेट करेंगे क्या करेंगे? You, sometimes His Majesty, you can't go beyond 2 or 3. And this Dullah Sahib Uruj, a poet from Anis's family, one of his couplets I am reminded of, Juk ke mil e dil sabhi se, Juk ke mil e dil sabhi se, warna ghafil ek din, Juk ke mil e dil sabhi se, warna ghafil ek din, dekh lena, aapse tum, tumse tu ho jayega. Right, but it's not, right, we just cannot, it cannot be translated in that way. So then another thing, my friend talked about the marriage culture. Should I tell you one thing? Actually, language or expression means that what you understand, what comes to your mind. अवध में रह के आप शादी का तस्वुर कीजिए, बारात तस्वुर में आएगी, दूल्हा तस्वुर में आएगा इमेजिनेशन में, दूल्हा घोड़े पे बैठा होगा, दूल्हे के सर पे पगड़ी होगी और सेहरा होगा. और यही शादी जब कश्मीर में जिक्र होगा, वही घोड़ा होगा, नाउ इट्स मियर ओनली, दूल्हा होगा, उसके पगड़ी होगी, सेहरा गायब होगा. एंड व्हेन यू गो टू ले, बारात होगी, ढोल ताशा बज रहा, एनीबॉडी फ्रॉम तिब्बतियंस हियर? नहीं, सब कुछ होगा, दूल्हा नहीं होगा, बारात के साथ दूल्हा नहीं जाता है. So ये expressions जो है ये vary करते हैं place. And I should tell you one thing, every language has a culture behind it. Now what happens? The original writer has to wear one culture. And when somebody translates into a target language, he has to wear 2 cultures. And for us the problem is that we always go through filter language. Marathi is not translated directly into Kashmiri. We have to take help of Hindi or English. So there comes the third language, the third culture. So a translator has to wear 3 cultures. Now my friend was talking about Kambar. And now with Kambar nowadays we have a problem, that we have to be very, we have to talk at such a pitch so that he could get it. His plays, my brother wanted to translate, to picturize. It was very difficult, very difficult. He has been a friend of ours and we have been together for a long time. I mean to say that despite all that intracultural problems, intralingual problems, and then especially the customs, different customs. इंग्लैंड में कोई लेडी अगर सफ़ेद लिबास पहने होगी तो हम सोचें कि शायद ये चर्च जा रही है शादी के लिए, और अगर हमारे इंडिया में कोई बिल्कुल सफ़ेद लिबास में हो तो हम ने बिल्कुल ही उसका वो उल्टा समझेंगे कि क्या हुआ है. तो ये चीज़ें जो हैं मुश्किल हैं. अब मैं ज़्यादा एग्जाम्पल, मैंने ज़्यादा ट्रांसलेट नहीं किया है, एट द मोस्ट 18-19 किताबें और फिर स्ट्रेट शॉर्ट स्टोरीज. लेकिन ये ऐसा है कि आई डोंट नो हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू आर टीचर्स, इफ यू गो फॉर ट्रेनिंग दैट हाउ टू टीच, व्हेन दे कम टू पोइट्री दे से एवरी पोएम इज अ मेथड इन इटसेल्फ. Every poem is a method in itself. It is the poem that tells you how to teach me. In the same manner, the piece of literature you are translating, that guides you how to go. Because दो चीज़ें हैं ना, एक तो उस लैंग्वेज का कल्चर है, फिर आपकी लैंग्वेज का कल्चर है जो आपकी अपनी है. इसमें जो कल्चरल लॉसेस होते हैं लेकिन गेन्स भी होते हैं. बड़ी चीज़ें हमारे यहाँ आई हैं. अब आपको मालूम है एक ज़माने में हमारे बच्चों को यहाँ हिंदुस्तान में हम जानते नहीं थे ब्रेकफास्ट. फिर लंच डिनर इस तरह से हमारे यहाँ आ गया कि अब हम वो भूल गए जो हम कहते थे। और कश्मीरी में बिल्कुल कोज काल वो कुछ बना, अब कोई नहीं बोलता। तो इस तरह से कुछ गेन्स भी होते हैं, बट एट द सेम टाइम वी मस्ट अप्रिशिएट द ट्रांसलेटर्स, दे हैव connected all of us with others. Otherwise, it would have not been possible for us. She told me that it's not alien. I was not talking of alien. It looks like alien. When I talk to Dogri in Kashmiri, a Dogra man will never understand it, and I will not understand his language. So is the case with Purgi and Balti and Shina and other languages. Not to talk of Marathi and Kashmiri, not to talk of Kannada and Rajasthani. But this session, it has to concentrate on the unifying force. Because I told you at the beginning that this India, our country, is a mini edition of the world book. It's not the languages only. We have different cultures also. We have different customs also. एक बार कल्चर पे बात हो रही थी, they were saying कल्चर, मैंने कहा कल्चर की दो तीन निशानियां हैं, एक उनमें लिबास भी है। किसी भी माल में जाइए आप रिकॉग्नाइज कर सकते हैं ये तमिलियन है, ये पंजाबी है, ये राजस्थानी है। एक ज़माने में राजस्थान में 100 के आसपास पगड़ियाँ थी डिफरेंट ट्राइब्स को वो रिप्रेजेंट करने के लिए, आज वो सब म्यूज़ियम में हैं। हाँ, ये डिफ़िकल्टीज़ हैं, और मेरा ख्याल है कि वी मस्ट गिव आवर पार्टिसिपेंट्स वन मोर चांस so that they could come out what they have kept with themselves. But that will depend on the questions. I would love if there would be 3 or 4 questions from the audience, and to whomever, to whosoever would be able to answer, they will reply it, and I think that will generate some heat in this. So it's over, please. Yes, gentlemen? Yes. Come take the questions now. I can't take everything, no?
Sure, of course.
That's why I placed you on the dice, but you were secure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for showing the light, and it was really amazing to listen to you and the concerns that you said. And as sir said, we are left with 12 more minutes, so we can have 2 or 3 more questions. Or 4. Yeah, sir, please. भैया माइक पास करना उधर. Excuse me. माइक देना यहाँ पे. और एक माइक यहाँ डाइस पे दे देना.
हेलो. आप लोग सभी इस क्षेत्र में विद्वान हैं और यू हैव लिव्ड विद दिस ट्रांसलेशन. आज के समय में जो चैलेंज सबसे ज़्यादा आ रहा है, इवन जो जॉब में जो यूएस में है, सभी जगह ज़बरदस्त चैलेंज आ रही है, एक स्टॉर्म आ रहा है एआई का. जैसे चैट जीपीटी में मैंने कोशिश किया था, रॉबर्ट बर्न्स का भी डाला, पूरी ट्रांसलेशन आ जाती है, और जितने बार डालो उतने बार अलग आ जाती है. फिर उसको जब पढ़ा एकदम अलग. उस चैलेंज को कैसे करेंगे? जैसे हो क्या रहा है कि एक आपके तरफ से आपने किसी परिस्थिति में उसको समझा और उस किताब को ट्रांसलेट किया. जो पढ़ने वाले लोग हैं, क्या वो डिमांड कर रहे हैं किसी चीज़ को? तो आज अगर हमें नए जनरेशन को किस चीज़ का ट्रांसलेट करना है, तो वो तो चैट जीपीटी में डालेगा, निकाल लेगा. तो कैसे ये चैलेंज को फेस करें, इसको एड्रेस करें? ये आप लोग चूँकि विद्वान हैं तो आप लोग से बेटर आंसर आएगा.
सर ऑन है सर.
On है?
जी.
Actually, I forgot to tell you about this, that there are 2 different aspects. AI is okay. We love it because it helps at many stages. But so far the literature is concerned, translation literature is concerned, it's a little different. If you have to translate science, if you have to translate knowledge, there you feel only one difficulty, that's the difficulty of terminology. There you can make compromises. Like we take it in Hyderabad, when the Usmania, when we had that Darul Tarjama, they suggested for thermometer, miqyasul harara. But it could not be used later. Thermometer is in your book. Everybody likes it. Or radio. For television, we got a particular term in our language, Doordarshan. That's okay. Knowledge, there will be feeling a difficulty, finding a difficulty in the terms. But so far literature is concerned, since it involves culture, it represents culture, I don't think that we don't know what will it do later, but at this stage, AI has not reached that stage.
पहुंच गया है, बहुत
That's
अच्छे
the
से
stage
था।
that the culture,
पूरी
that-
कविता लिख देता।
no, that could convert culture while translating things. So that I feel, but we don't know what will happen in future.
So pass on the mic, just at the back.
विद्वज्जनों की ये सभा मेरा प्रणाम स्वीकार करे। मैं हरि हूँ, मैं उत्तर प्रदेश के गोरखपुर जनपद से आता हूँ। शेक्सपियर को ट्रांसलेट करने वाले तमाम विद्वान यहाँ बैठे हैं। मैं बताता हूँ मैं बीए में शेक्सपियर को कैसे पढ़ा हूँ। इनिशियली व्हेन द प्ले ओपन्स, वो 3 विचेस मिलती हैं और वो आपस में पूछती हैं, वेयर वर यू सिस्टर? द सेकेंड वन आंसर्स, आई वॉज किलिंग स्वाइन। हमने इसको ऐसे पढ़ा है, बहन तुम कहाँ थी? मैं सुअर मार रही थी। ये मेरा एक्सेस है शेक्सपियर के प्रति। मैं ट्रांसलेशन की फील्ड में बहुत नया हूँ। मैं जल्दी ही ज्ञानदेवी सर की एक पुस्तक आई है, महाभारत द एपिक एंड द नेशन, उसको मैंने हिंदी में ट्रांसलेट करने की कोशिश की है। जो ये प्रश्न था एआई को लेकर के, सर प्रोफेसर ज्ञानदेवी की बुक का पहला जो चैप्टर है उसका नाम है एपिक क्वेस्ट, और एपिक क्वेस्ट वेस्ट में एक जैनर होता है। एपिक क्वेस्ट का आप एआई में जब ट्रांसलेशन करेंगे तो महाकाव्य प्रश्न हो सकता है, जो कि बिल्कुल ठीक नहीं है। आप इसको वृहत कथा कहेंगे तो वृहत कथा आपके यहाँ एक बुक भी है। आप इसको विराट प्रश्न कहेंगे तो महाभारत का एक पात्र हो जाएगा। इसको कहेंगे क्या? ब्रह्म जिज्ञासा कहेंगे तो ब्रह्मसूत्र का पहला वाक्य है वो ब्रह्म जिज्ञासा। इसको आपको करना पड़ेगा समथिंग लाइक कंटिन्यूअस क्वेश्चन, या इसको निरंतर प्रश्न या सतत प्रश्न कुछ करना पड़ेगा। आपकी बात सही है, ट्रांसलेशन एआई बहुत कुछ पहुंच गया है, लेकिन शायद कल्चरली कनेक्ट करने के लिए, इमोशंस को कैच करने के लिए मुश्किल। मेरा एक सवाल है आप सबसे, सबसे अच्छा ट्रांसलेशन क्या कहा जाता है? हाल ही में मैं जीजेवी प्रसाद जी के द्वारा ट्रांसलेटेड एक तमिल बुक है इमायम की, और संभवतः आ भी रहे इमायम जी, तो मैं उसका ट्रांसलेशन पढ़ रहा था। मेरी प्रोफेसर ने कहा कि, एंड आई डोंट नो द ABC ऑफ तमिल और तमिज़, मेरे प्रोफेसर ने रात को पूछा कि हरी कैसे कह सकते हो कि ये ट्रांसलेशन अच्छा लग रहा है? मैंने कहा मुझे अच्छा लग रहा है, मैं तमिल नहीं जानता हूँ।
हरि जी, अगर हम प्रश्न पर ही आ जाएं क्योंकि समय की थोड़ी,
एक बेहतर ट्रांसलेशन या एक अच्छा ट्रांसलेशन किसे कहा जाए?
जी बिल्कुल, ये इनका प्रश्न है कि एक अच्छा ट्रांसलेशन किसे कहा जाए, एक बेहतरीन तर्जुमा क्या है? व्हाट इज?
मैं इसका एक ही इस प्रश्न का उत्तर मैं एक वाक्य में दूंगा कि जिसको पाठक पसंद करेगा,
वाह,
उसको आप मान लीजिएगा।
वेरी प्लेन एंड डायरेक्ट। और हरि जी, मैं आपको बताऊं, स्वाइन वाली जो बात कही ना, उसके पहले मैकबेथ ऐसे शुरू होता है कि वेयर शैल वी थ्री मीट अगेन इन थंडर लाइटनिंग और रेन। तो वो सौंदर्य के आवरण के बाद सुअर मारे, कुत्ता मारे, दैट इज ओके। ओके, वी कैन हैव वन मोर क्वेश्चन।
Yeah, good afternoon, good morning, sir. Sir and ma'am. My question is for a person who is writing from a small community, and writing basically means perseverance and continuity of the culture and the community. For translating from that culture to English is okay, but from English or big culture to that small community, what are the precautions that translators need to take care of that, so that we also can keep that idea of continuity and perseverance, because it is all about the essence.
To be precise, you're asking about precautions
The
that a translator
precautions,
must take. Yeah,
yes.
please, anyone of the panelists. Ma'am, it's on. Yeah.
Hello. Your dilemma is like how we can translate from English into that smaller language, and what are the precautions you take? I translated Robert Burns, which is originally written in Scottish. I forgot to tell you that I learned Scottish to read that book.
Okay.
And when I wrote that in Scottish language, and then sent it to Sahitya Academy, they said that please keep that English thing, kind of, So as our chair said, that there should be a link language also. You cannot be translating from one language to another language, which is like we can translate, but you cannot be translated into smaller language without the help of that link language, the bridge language. So that could also be one option. Like, huh? Yeah. Okay. So then I think you can answer it better than. So these are what precaution I took. I'll just tell you a few things. I tried, because I was understanding, I'm translating it for people of India. I was in Scotland for 3 years. I understood, like, in there is a grain millet, they call it cove. We don't have cove here. I cannot write millet also, right? So then I said, I wrote cove only, and then I wrote in the bracket millet ka ek prakar. And I created this kind of word, list of word, like 300, 400 word. There is a word there, katti sarak. That means, it's a Scottish word, that means short skirt. The tam and shanter, when they are coming in the midnight and then they see the booth wearing a short skirt and torn skirt, and there is a word called katti sarak. So what, I cannot write like katti sarak or short skirt or something like that. So then I wrote in place of that छोटे कपड़े, like अर्धनग्न या छोटे कपड़े पहने हुए. So आप ये समझना मुझे ये लगता है कि आप जिस लैंग्वेज, जिस कम्युनिटी के लिए आप ट्रांसलेट कर रहे हैं, to make their life easier and then to make them associate with the translation, you have to be like, kind of, as a mother, like we are saying that translators are like motherly, so you have to like bridge the gap between their understanding of the world, of the marriages, what our chair mentioned, and our understanding of the marriage. So, thank you.
I would just add a word. Here comes the selection. Your language is a minor language. You want to get things from a major language. Their selection becomes very important. You have to select the text. Every text you should not carry to your language. See the suitability, what suits to your language, and how easily it could be done. The selection matters. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone, for the nice session. And thank you, ma'am, for mentioning Katti Sark. It is popular nowadays. It is a popular brand of scotch these days, Katti Sark. Thank you for mentioning that. So, yeah, it is. Katti Sark is a popular brand of scotch. But we cannot talk about it. We done a dry state. So, may I request all the panelists to be in line so that we can have a group photograph, please.
Thank you so much. He has already asked us to be in line. Thank you so much. It was a very, very heat-generating session.
Sir, one by one you need to be here for the record.